When I first came to Egypt, about 11 or 12 years ago, our tour bus drove past the City of the Dead. And I remember our Egyptian tour guide saying what a scary and dangerous place it was. And I think it's kind of funny, now that I live in Cairo, that this is actually one of my favorite neighborhoods now. I often visit to shop at the glass-blowing workshops, to see a concert at Mosque, or to take a walking tour. The City of the Dead is often portrayed as a scary neighborhood where people live among the graves. And it technically was once a vast cemetery. But these days, it's much like any other Cairo neighborhood, with apartment houses, businesses, and grocers, though the tombs and the mausoleums are still there, peeking out from the bustling alleyways like little memento moris. But people have actually always lived here, and it was never a deserted necropolis, even in medieval times. Many residents began to arrive here in the 1950s when they moved to Cairo but couldn't find any housing. So they settled and set up infrastructure here that turned this former necropolis into a living and breathing neighborhood. So why visit the City of the Dead? And why is it one of my favorite Cairo neighborhoods? Well, it's full of hidden gems, architectural treasures, street art, and handicrafts. So it's perfect if you want to explore a more authentic part of Cairo beyond the famous tourist landmarks. Take a walking tour of the City of the Dead and see it for yourself, because it's one of Cairo's most unique districts for history and an atmosphere that's unspoiled by mass tourism. There's a vibe in the City of the Dead that you won't find elsewhere. It's quiet compared to most of Cairo, and the narrow, unpaved streets mean less traffic and noise. And the City of the Dead is still largely unexplored by tourists, so that means there's no souvenir shops with papyrus prints and no aggressive vendors. But it's packed with treasures that you won't find elsewhere. Some are lovingly restored, while others still lay in neglect. Walk down Souk Street and you'll spot an elaborate Mamluk archway peeking out from a modern apartment block. The area is a UNESCO heritage site with some 30 Mamluk monuments. Mosque is a great place to start if you want to explore this neighborhood. Mosque is a cultural center for both visitors and the local community, and Mosque regularly holds events and walking tours that let you explore this fascinating district. I spent a day at a Mosque event and it was an incredible experience. So if you're thinking about visiting the City of the Dead, here's what a Mosque event looks like. First, we took a walking tour and we started at the complex of Amir Kabir Kurkamas. This incredible landmark isn't even open to the public, but we got in with our tour guide from Mosque and he told us all about the history of this vast funerary complex. Parts of it are still in desperate need of restoration, and they look like history frozen in time, waiting to be discovered once again. It was definitely exciting to see this place because I've only ever seen it from the street. After the Kurkamas complex, we walked to our second stop, the complex of Faraj ibn Barkouk, and it's a beautiful mosque and leafy courtyard. This place is actually a working mosque that locals still use, and you're welcome to visit anytime, with or without a tour guide. The vast courtyard boasts 2 chevron-carved stone domes, and it's one of the largest monuments of the Burji Mamluk period. Sultan Faraj basically built this complex as a tribute to his father, Sultan Barkouk. And the complex marks one of Cairo's first ventures into what was at that time a vast desert. After the mosque, we took a long walk down Souk Street, one of the main streets of this neighborhood. There's lots of daily life and street art to see here, and this gave us a chance to see everyday Egyptian life beyond the tourist path. We finished at the Mosque of Sultan Qaitbay, which is one of the most beautiful accomplishments of the late Mamluk architecture. This is actually a funerary complex that includes the Sultan's tomb and a beautiful ornamental ceiling. Then we had some free time, so I took a walk to Khaled Glass, where you can see the local glassblowers at work. Qaitbay is famous for its glassblowers, and you'll find 2 nearby shops here selling anything from vases and drinking cups to Christmas ornaments. I also stopped at Mishka, which is a jewelry and leather brand, all made by the local woman from this neighborhood. And then came the Sultan's Bazaar, and this is a regular event that Mosque holds a few times a year, and it showcases the local brands and handicrafts of the neighborhood. There were also 2 art exhibits happening on this night, and I especially loved these drawings by architect Jarosław Dobrowolski. He's actually worked alongside his wife Agnieszka Dobrowolska to restore dozens of historic mosques and monuments in the City of the Dead and throughout Cairo. And of course, one of their projects was to take the old and neglected Sultan's Reception Hall and turn it into Mask, a vibrant, modern-day culture center. There was a concert later in the evening by a local rock band that was great to see, as locals, tourists, and Egyptians all enjoyed this cultural space together. I had so much fun that I returned a few days later for a special talk by Dobrovolsky. That night also featured a couple more guest speakers and storytellers who took us inside some medieval history and moral tales of the Mamluk period. It was so fascinating and really a one-of-a-kind experience of this enigmatic neighborhood of the City of the Dead. Would you ever visit this place? If you do, it's going to surprise you for sure. I put all the details for Mask in the description box below if you want to join the next event. Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoyed that look at the City of the Dead, and I hope it wasn't your typical clickbait YouTube video about the neighborhood. I saw a lot of videos on YouTube that showed the City of the Dead and the people living among the tombs, and they seem to be very clickbaity and capitalizing off of the poverty of the residents there, which is not something that I wanted to do, and besides, it's been done so many times already, that I wanted to show the City of the Dead in a completely different light. I wanted to show it from the perspective of a culture lover, an arts lover, somebody who loves handmade niche boutiques, traditional Egyptian crafts, medieval Islamic architecture. So basically for the cultural and arts lover tourist, and not so much for the shock value or for the clickbait. Not to say that places like that, where people do live inside the tombs, don't exist. They are there, but there are also a ton of modern apartment buildings, and I don't think it's fair to depict the neighborhood entirely through one lens and through one perspective. All of that being said, it is now March, and we are in the middle of Ramadan here in Cairo, so there was a lot of other events happening at the Maqab of Sultan Qaitbay Mosque that were going on recently. And I attended one during Ramadan that I wanted just to share at the end of this video to give you a look at the atmosphere and the vibes of this neighborhood during Ramadan. There was a beautiful Sufi music concert in the evening, a Sultan fair where they had local brands and crafts on display for people to buy. And the turnout was huge, full of locals, Egyptians, visitors, expats, tourists. That made me really happy to see that the neighborhood is up and coming. It is still a hidden gem, and it is not that touristy, but more and more people are starting to appreciate it for its beauty and the architecture and the handcrafts that are made there. It's a great place to visit, and before I end the video, I wanted to show you how it looks like during Ramadan.